So, one of the things that we have to really think about when it comes to rest and sleep is also thinking about the environment, because the environments that we're in, they affect how we actually rest and sleep. Because unless if you're super tired, you might be able to sleep in any environment, because you've seen those people in the bottom that, that gather just not and they sleep. That sleep is that probably indicates that someone is super tired. If someone is just sleeping whenever they sit down, they sleep. It means that that person is likely very exhausted and they haven't been prioritizing their sleep enough and their own rest to fully recover. Because that sleep, when someone just sleeps randomly in public, it's definitely an indicator that person is exhausted. And the exhaustion sometimes might not be because they're not necessarily sleeping, because they might sleep, the 2, 3 hours in public and then they go home, they sleep, they wake up early. And when that happens, they might have things and thoughts that are already weighing on their mind, the thoughts that are weighing on their mind. So, and they've been holding them for such a long time. So that puts them in a position where they're so stressed and they just sleep and then wake up and think about it, and then they go to bed and then they sleep and they think about it, because and that thought pattern that they're in when they go to bed, that's what allows them to be able to just sleep in public and just pass out in public, because they're just like, okay, I gotta go, because they're already in their own world. They've made that decision. I mean, maybe they haven't made that decision, they just pass out. But obviously there are people who just pass out naturally, just like that, just because they're comfortable, the environments that they're comfortable. But scientifically, there are certain things that we know that need to be in place for us to have a good sleep, namely the environment, the lighting that's around us. So, lighting is one of the most important things. And not a lot of people talk about this. Not a lot of people make this association or connect the dots, because the first thing that people think about when they're talking about sleep, they just think that, oh, I just have to have X amount of sleep, X amount of number of sleeps. Sorry, X number of hours, X amount of hours of sleep. Right. So the number of hours that you sleep is important, but there's something that's also just as important. It's realizing that the reason maybe you don't have good sleep is that your your brain is being constantly stimulated by the light that comes into your eyes. Because again, your eyes are part of your brain. They're connected. So when you don't make sure that you understand that principle and you don't take care of your environment, you're going to be in that place where you're not having good sleep. And you just don't have that refreshed feeling after your sleep, just to feel like, oh, wow, I really slept. And the other thing is, the light's not just like lighting in a room, but it's also like your phone. It's also like you watching TV at night or being on the iPad, because that's entertainment, that's the light. But you're also stimulating your brain, not just with the light, but you're now stimulating it with the content that you're watching. Whatever you're watching, whatever the person's talking about, they're stimulating your brain and letting your brain go to a different place. Maybe you're trying to learn something and your brain is trying to learn something, but at night, your brain should be shutting down. So that's one thing that we have to think about. And as I said, like the amount of hours that you sleep is important. And some people just treat their sleep as, yeah, whatever amount of time that I have in the day after I've done XYZ, because they want to catch up on their show and they're going to binge watch some of the shows after work. And then they're like, okay, I got to wake up. Okay, in 4 hours. Okay, so I've got 4 hours of sleep tonight. and then you just sleep 4 hours. So they don't respect that time for sleep. And that's a problem because the time for sleep has to be protected. You have to protect the time for sleep. As God said, on the seventh day, as yeah, so by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. So that time that you have to rest is important. After work, like, okay, you go Monday to Friday, you're working, right? Night, day, and you sleep. The work for the day gets finished, then you sleep. And then you respect that time because we're also made in the likeness of God. And if God needed sleep, what makes you think that? I mean, not sleep, but rest. I don't know if he sleeps, but but if he needed rest, what makes you think that you don't need rest? And rest means not stimulating your brain, making your brain think. Because sometimes you think that it's just rest from work, but it's also from stimulating your brain to think, to process information, because your brain is for processing information. So when you keep on trying to process information all the time, your brain is not resting. Because because I mean, that's probably the best way to put it, right? Like when you're talking about resting, it's about resting your brain itself from actually just processing information because our brains are meant for processing information. We have some storage, some memory that we can keep, but we can't keep everything, right? And the main function that we have to make sure that we're able to do with our brains is to process. And depending on how you think, you can have thoughts that are organized so that you have context to put every new information that comes, and it makes your brain run much smoother. Maybe in a day you can be more productive because some people ask, like, okay, how is this person more productive? That's where you now need to understand that, okay, the brain, the way, okay, those are my earphones. Okay, so you need to understand that the way that the brain works is that the way that some people are more productive than other people, it comes down to how their brain actually functions and how they allow their brain to have more capacity to process. It's kind of like your computer. When it's full of like memory or your files are not arranged properly, your brain's going to have to use more RAM to think and process, right? Kind of like the computer terms, if you're like into computers. But the more you're storing stuff and it's not organized, your brain is going to use more horsepower, more energy for you to process the information that's coming. So you need to organize your thoughts. You need to have structure to your thoughts. You need to have structure to your work. And you need to have structure to your sleep. So structure is one of the most important things, and which comes back to like the habits that you form on a daily basis. So your nervous system also responds to this, as we're talking about the brain. Like your brain and your nervous system are connected, because now when you stress your brain, if you're not organized, you're not sleeping, your nervous system is on high alert and you're not sleeping. So that means that your brain is also going to signal your hormones, your body, to say, oh, this person's not sleeping, they haven't recovered. It means that they're likely struggling with something and they're trying to survive something that's stressful. So your cortisol rises, it goes up. Your hormones, your stress hormones, they go up, they increase. And when your cortisol increases, excuse me, it's going to signal to your body that we're in survival mode. So imagine it's kind of like you're in the woods, you're stranded, you don't know what's going on around you, You can't really sleep at night, so you're like worried. And when you're worried, you're like, okay, I can't sleep. Okay, is there a bear? Okay, is there an animal that's going to come? Or I'm cold, right? So, what your body does, you're triggering your fight or flight mode, and you're in like a reactive state. And if you've seen some people who shout, some of the people who say, okay, Karens on the street, on the road, some of those people likely haven't had good sleep and haven't slept enough. And they probably have been going on coffee or caffeine or something that's sustaining them just to keep awake, your eyes awake. So your ability to tolerate stress, your margin for tolerating other people's stress, it's going to be very low because your body's in survival mode. Your body is telling your body, I mean, your body is signaling that, hey, like we're trying to survive here. So when your cortisol goes up, your body is not going to want to get rid of fat, burn fat, so metabolism slows down. Your bodily functions don't work as well. And when your body functions don't work as well, you'll realize that you will start gaining weight because you're not sleeping well, because you're stressed all the time. And it's now chronic stress. This is now when we start talking about chronic stress. Your body's in that state. And you think that you're just living a normal life, but you're not getting enough sleep, enough good sleep. So when you get into that state, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle a lot with losing weight and just irritations. And your nervous system is just going to be tight. So when something happens that you don't like, you're going to be just irritated. And even light will just irritate you. You go in certain spaces, light, you're very sensitive to light. So those are things and indications to just show you that your body's trying to survive when you're just in that state where you're not relaxed, but everything is just tight, everything is tense, and you just get irritated. So you have to really get to the point where you train your body because like I said, like the rest part becomes work because if you've been doing this for years, you've probably built certain habits, and those habits are actually leaving you in that state where your body forgets how to rest, how to unwind, how to enjoy the good things in life, how to just pause, just say, okay, let me just breathe. Because breathing is also work. You have to learn how to breathe again. So these are things that have to just become part of your thought process when you're thinking about rest, recovery. What are the consequences if I don't get enough sleep? Because your body, for it to fully recover and come back to life every single day, you have to be disciplined about your sleep. You have to be because it is spiritual.